Hey everyone, I'm Mikayla Denault, and I've got this week's top stories. Intramurals are catching the opportunity to create community at Northwestern. The students say the residential staff helps improve their mood. With enthusiasm, before big tests and busy days. The proposed Evanston Greenway would bring bikers of all skill levels, promoting safety and equity in travel. So the question is, how safe are parks for children during the pandemic? The Visible Faces project gives food and toiletries to the populations experiencing homelessness in the Evanston and Chicago area, taking precautions to keep the warmth of Northwestern alive. Mikayla Denault, Northwestern News Network. Mayoral candidate Daniel Biss wants to see an increase in participation and data sharing.
A police officer is a very special city worker with very special powers. To make that work, we need to have a very special degree of accountability.
Candidate Lori Keenan, meanwhile, calls to spend more money on staff and social programs and less on police.
So much of this is messaging and education and awareness, because I think that people who don't know.
Finally, 22-year-old candidate Sebastian Knowles promotes an alternate emergency system, one that invests in young people and marginalized communities.
I myself was racially profiled by Evanston police. And then the next step would be working with public safety officials to perform reallocation of funds.
One thing is for sure, the three candidates want to see reform within the Evanston Police Department.
Community gets really involved and really engaged, but oftentimes the city doesn't pick up the mantle and carry that.
It's a moral right and a fiscal responsibility for us to do. And this is not something that's going to happen overnight.
The candidates all ask for more public engagement. They want to hear from NU students.
I'm committed to resetting that relationship so that we can actually work out a solution.
A new era in Evanston politics on the horizon. Mikayla Denault, Northwestern News Network. According to the Pew Research Center, 1 in 10 eligible voters in 2020 will be members of Gen Z.
And really want to make the difference now instead of waiting until they become the elected leaders. They actually want to make sure that the elected leaders are listening to them.
And as young people head to the polls, many are thinking about student debt and how the pandemic is affecting schools. Focused on the election, the National Education Association supports policies that fix inequities laid bare during the pandemic.
Our students lack access to the resources and technology that they would need to do remote learning. And so we call that the digital divide homework gap.
This public school behind me relies on taxes to fund their educational programs and learning opportunities.
And so students, whether native or newcomer, Black or white, Latino or Asian, deserve what I had. All students deserve a high quality public education so that they will have the chance to be the citizens that we need them to be, and more importantly, the successes that they want to be.
Biden says he supports tuition-free public college for families that make less than $125,000 a year. Trump, meanwhile, prioritizes school choice in for-profit colleges, according to the National Education Association. Jim Reed of the Illinois Community College Trustees Association said the ICCTA advocates for equitable distributions of funding.
And that we really should be trying to do all we can to ensure that diversity, equity, inclusion are part of not only our curriculums for students, but also training for staff and faculty, and also the community at large.
Heading from the classrooms to the polls. Mikayla Denault, Northwestern News Network. Schools during the pandemic have debated on methods of teaching to promote the safety and success of their students. Some schools have opened, like this elementary school behind me, and others in Evanston have made community possible virtually through a special morning wake-up.
Good morning, everyone.
Smiles fill the screen as Books and Breakfast helps students wake up.
And then building on the strengths of what we've always done is focused on this one-on-one connection that makes kind of this safe platform for learning.
Normally, the Evanston-based program works with local schools, bringing a nutritious breakfast and academic support.
You know, Books and Breakfast staff members will tell you that in the future they hope that a program like Books and Breakfast is no longer needed because we've achieved new levels of equity and accountability in our school system.
Northwestern tutors who work with the organization, turning the page in the COVID chapter, working with students on Zoom.
When we left off our call, I asked her, like, oh, if there's one word that you could describe how you're feeling right now, what would it be? And she was like, I would say happy. And in that moment, I was like, oh my gosh.
Connecting through learning, hoping every virtual session is one for the books. Mikayla Denault, Northwestern News Network.